Hey everybody, War Hamster Brady here with the 29th rendition of my Grassroots Spotlights, where I talk to everyday Americans who are trying to make a difference in their communities to make this a better country. Joining me today for the second time is former political prisoner J6er Brian Mock. How you doing, Brian?
Hey, Brady, thanks for having me back on here. Doing
Hi.
fantastic.
No, it's my absolute pleasure. We got really good feedback on the first time you were here. Everybody enjoyed hearing your story firsthand, and you've been up to it. We've stayed in touch, and Brian's been a busy man, and he's been up to enough stuff that I thought it was worth having him back on and kind of tell you, what goes on in the world of a former J6 political prisoner who's decided he didn't really like what happened and he might want to try to do something about it. So, tell us where you are today and what you've been up to.
Yeah, I didn't think I'd come back in here with more to tell you than what had happened the last 4 years, but I think I've crammed 4 years worth of work in the last 2 months. So I'm calling you from Richmond, Virginia. I'm here in the media room of Safe Haven, our facility here in Richmond. So since we spoke, and I think we first spoke like right after I had jumped in the truck with my girlfriend, and we said, "Hey, we prayed and said, God, send us where we're supposed to be." And you got to be careful when you do that because he he has some plans, and so we ended up across the country. Um, have really not been home. I think we've been back in Minnesota for like combined maybe five days total. And we ended up here, met Josh Macias, who is the founder of On Your Six Foundation and Veterans for Trump. So he's OG Trump guy, goes back to 2015. He is responsible for millions of Trump votes. So got with Josh, and we both had a similar vision of we wanted a real Jan 6 investigation, and I wanted BOP reform. And as we had spoke about the First Step Act not getting implemented properly, that's one of the things that was really on my heart to get done. I wanted to go in there and free prisoners, and so Josh said, okay, well, to that end, I've got a 501c3 that's set up. It's going to take you 6 months to a year to set up a 501c3 if you even get it approved, all of that. And I just didn't have time to do it. And so I partnered up with him. We created a new division of civil liberties. And he has his mandate has been to house homeless vets. Well, then fast forward to Jan 6, 30% of our Jan 6 population are veterans. Some of my good friends through all of this have been veterans, and then we've got a ton of first responders as well. So at least half of the J6 community is first responders and veterans. And
And
so there's
just to clarify, and I know you can speak from your own experience, but it's great to get pardoned, but a lot of these guys had their lives completely, they lost their jobs, houses, homes, everything like that. So they had their lives turned upside down. And so there's a bit of a financial hit still going today.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and I'm one of them. I mean, I just a good six-figure VP job in this. That's gone. The house is gone. I think I'm over $1 million and counting into this whole thing. I've spent way more in the last 2 months trying to do this and help other people than I have on myself. That's for sure. And so what there is, there's a lot of people out there struggling, and I guess instead of focusing on myself, I focus on those that were in a worse situation and just tried to make a difference and do something about it. So, luckily, I had a girlfriend who was 1,000% behind me no matter what. She's probably as crazy as I am, and she's right here with me. And so we end up here in Richmond. This facility is 30 acres, 1,000 units in here. We have some that are set up as like community living on these floors, the one I'm on now. And so we've got kind of through phase one. Phase two now is really just raising operational funds. So we have kind of a multi-fold call here. One is my division of civil liberties, which I talked about already, but then we've also got all these vets and Jan 6ers that we're trying to house. And the concept of this is to have some um, almost like a sober living, someplace where we can get guys together where you've got a partner in this and to help them get reestablished. With veterans, it's getting them into the VA, getting all those kind of wraparound housing vouchers, making sure they're getting the health care that they need, whatever benefits they're entitled to. It's walking them through that process, getting them established, helping them with whatever needs they may have. Obviously, if guys are struggling with homelessness, there's a myriad of other issues that come in there. So it's starting that process of getting back to independent living. And then with this facility, we've got hundreds of apartments here that we can work these guys into. And we've had the community outreach that's starting to come in now that they know that we're here, from other nonprofits that are helping similarly, and then two businesses that are reaching out, going, "Hey, we support the J6ers, we support vets. Anything that we can do to help. If we have jobs, people meet certain criteria, come on in." So we're in that kind of initial process here right now to get those people in and set up. We're still having to build out a lot of these units, and there's floors that are in various states of disrepair that need a lot of stuff done to them. So we're working with the owners and management to make all that happen. But they've basically opened up this entire floor to our team to start the cleanup process, establish processes for all this. It's not like you just walk in one day and go, "Okay, well, we're going to house all the guys, show up." So we're putting that to work in and amongst my lobbying efforts up in DC, which is not
Well, let's jump into that in a
not.
second. I had a couple questions about what you just went over. You said you're working with the VA. Have you seen any improvement in the VA since Trump got back in?
No, and that's, I don't have a big comparison to that. Long story short is everybody says no. There's hope that's going to come, but implementation, of course, is
Still a bureaucratic mess.
yes. The VA is a hot mess. Really, it needs to completely change. Our opinion overall from Josh and the people who've worked in that is that it really needs to be gutted for parts, moved more efficiently. There's a number of things that can be done, and we want to use this really as a template. Josh has a couple other places down in Florida and then Virginia Beach that he's already doing this, and where they charge something like 5,000 a bed per night for someone, we can get that cost down to 500. So we can do this at a fraction of the cost of what the federal government is doing. Um, to start taking away the waste, the fraud. And I won't say from the VA standpoint that I think that there's a ton of fraud going through there. I think there's a massive amount of waste, inefficiencies, redundancies, just a bureaucratic mess that when you get down to the heart of what is actually needed to work with vets and get them what they need, um, it just truly doesn't need this big mess that it is. And that's the biggest thing in government that we all talk about. It doesn't matter what the agency is or what the bureaucracy is. Bureaucracy just begets more bureaucracy. So let's pare that down. And it's weird. You start getting civilians involved, and you start getting businessmen involved, and we streamline, we find efficiencies, we use technology, all of that to take a process that's this huge, pull it down to this, and make things happen in a quick time frame.
Yeah, you see that in a lot of bureaucracy. You'll see like the government contractors that have basically been riding the gravy train for the last few decades. They're part of the problem. But I completely agree. I come from the private sector, and it's just a matter of government and government contractors are usually have mal incentives to get accomplish the whatever the goal is. If you don't spend all your budget money in one year, they'll take your money away. So even if you don't need to spend it, they're going to spend it right at the year end. And we see that across the agencies. I wouldn't mind Doge taking a look at the VA, because I'm sure we could find an awful lot of waste.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that was actually, well, one of my calls. It wasn't specifically to the VA, but yeah, it definitely needs to be in there. There's a lot of places. I mean, you let Doge go in every government agency, as far as I'm concerned. One we just made a call out to yesterday was the BOP, in our press conference that we had yesterday. So yeah, there's so much. At the end of the day, again, I think the VA has its place, but I think ultimately, I think that needs to be brought down to a fraction of what it is, and that the rest of this can be done at a much higher level by different organizations.
Yeah, my solution to a lot of government bureaucracy is decentralize and move it back to the states. But the VA is not something that really lends itself to do that. So I mean, it really does take the right. It's going to take a gutting and the right people at the top that have the right incentives. So that's a worthy endeavor, and you've got the support of everybody watching this. I can almost promise you.
I appreciate that, and yeah, it's till we get some bigger funding on that. We need we need massive donors on this, and then once we show some success, it's stepping in for government funds on that. Of course, I mean, there's certain things that yeah, I think we can collectively say that yeah, the government needs to be spending money on veterans. Uh, I don't think there's anybody out there that says, "Hey, don't spend the money on the veterans." So that's one that we go, okay, yeah, let's figure out how to spend this, but also let's ourselves as a group that looks at ourselves as watchdogs. We're the perfect people to be taking that and doing something with it because we're not going to waste it. We're going to put it where it needs to be and do it right.
Well, because you give a shit. That kind of matters. Hey, one real quick, since we're talking about donations, let's go ahead and tell everybody where they can donate. And a friendly reminder, it's a 501c3, people. Your donations are tax deductible. So
Yep, there's two spots you can go. Civlib.org. So CIVLIB.org. That's our website. We still have our own individual give, send, go up there if you want to contribute to what we have going on. It's all ending up the same spot right now for us. It's gas in the tank. It's keeping the lights on. So whether it goes to the organization or it comes directly to my give, send, go, it all ends up right now going to the same spot to keep operations going. So my give, send, go is give, send, go / help Brian Mock. So either one goes the right spot.
Okay, we'll do that again at the end when I tell everyone where to find you. I just wanted to get it out there now because some people don't watch the whole video. But
Fair enough. Yeah, I think the other, I mean, that's kind of where we're at is that first phase right now, and working towards the second. So I think it's a matter of just funds right now before we can really start taking in. We do have a few guys that we've brought in initially, some J6ers, are more volunteer based, along with needing some help and getting reestablished. They're also in here to volunteer and help get us moving forward. So we've got a pretty cool team right now working on that. And then our next focus, of course, is really the mandate force, the Civil Liberties Division, which is the FSA, which we had our press conference on yesterday. And now going forward is the real Jan 6 investigation. So I've got some really interesting things there because now we're being in DC or close to DC. I'm up there multiple times a week meeting with Congress, which is a whole new fun thing I get to do in life. And we've been in talks with the administration too. So we're in the process, and lawyers and all the people that nobody really wants to deal with on a regular basis. I've walked in here and managed to work myself right into that spot on a regular.
why don't you start us from the beginning of how that started, what you're trying to accomplish, and I have you can share some anecdotes of how much fun it is trying to get a meeting with a congressman, dealing with their staff, and all that good stuff. Because congressmen come in a lot of different sizes and shapes, and
Yep.
some of them want to listen, some of them do not.
Yes, and I've seen the glazed over eyes are the ones that just can't hide the disdain for you. So that's always a fun meeting. But what I did basically is I showed up here, completely naive to the process that was Congress, and just started knocking on doors and trying to figure out what the process was to get someone to listen. And really, what I wanted was someone to listen to about the First Step Act, because what I found out while I was in prison was that there's literally thousands of people being illegally held. If you go to my X page at Brian Mock PPOW, you can find all the posts that I put out here about this. I won't go completely into detail on that stuff now because there's a lot to it, but just suffice it to say, found out that the BOP, believe it or not, is just not following the law. I know this is weird for government agency to suspect that they wouldn't follow the law, but what Trump had signed into law back in 2018 is that prisoners can now earn 15 days off their sentence per month that they were serving, as long as they were taking certain classes. And basically, what it came down to is the government took, or the prisons were taking money for those classes as though they were actually teaching them, which they weren't. And then they actually were not applying these credits properly, if at all, for the last 6 years. And DOJ knew this and was corruptly acting to keep these from actually showing up in court. So none of this was heard.
Yeah, the prison industrial complex has been a problem for a long time. That's throughout the country, but we're talking about, DC gulag's got to be worse than all of them.
Yeah, the gulag was a whole nother level of insanity. Now, particularly the prisons don't come into effect until you actually go to prison. So there's 100 and I think it's 122, give or take. A couple might be closed now, so call it 120. There's 120. Um, of those federal ones, they've been working with the DOJ to collude and conspire and keep these from ever seeing the light of day in the courtroom. Well, I backdoored the whole system and managed to get an FSA hearing, because that's just how I operate. The 1512 obstruction charge that they hit me with on a superseding indictment got overturned by the Supreme Court. So I saw an opportunity to come in and argue the FSA without officially arguing the FSA. And so I got a hearing on January 3rd for resentencing. And all I argued was the FSA. Well, first thing that the DOJ comes in and says, well, there's no jurisdiction. You don't have jurisdiction on this, Your Honor, because Mr. Mock has not argued the the 1512. The whole reason we're here, he took this opportunity to argue the FSA. And I was like, yeah, that wasn't lost on me 6 months ago when I filed this. Welcome to the party. And so he says that he doesn't have jurisdiction because when he sentenced me, he now basically turned me over to the BOP, and they own me in this. So that the judge, whatever the judge says, doesn't matter. It's what the BOP says. So the BOP, if you want to think about what they were saying, was that Congress wrote a law, the president signed it into law, and now we don't deal with any of those people. We deal with us. These people now belong to us. And if the courts try to intervene, they can't, because they don't have jurisdiction to deal with these people. And that's exactly how the BOP looks at prisoners, who they are. Those are their prisoners, and literally nobody has any oversight. And so people have tried to bring these issues to Congress, and we have years of all these testimonies from BOP in there, just sidestepping, coming up with excuses, and ultimately actually deceiving the BOP, or excuse me, Congress. So they're actually sitting there actively deceiving Congress over what they're doing. And so I collected a whole bunch of evidence. I have them dead to rights. And then further into my my hearing, the DOJ argues, well, Your Honor, Mr. Mock is not alone in all of this. If you were to go throughout the BOP, you would find literally thousands of people that are in Mr. Mock's same position. And my position was that I was supposed to be released in November. I'm sitting there in January, 2 months past when I was supposed to be released, and the DOJ is saying that I'm not even legally allowed to be released yet, because the BOP had created two separate databases. One showed one date, one showed another. So the one that I had was the internal correct one. And because they had brought a member of the Minnesota probation, the judge asked the probation officer, who doesn't want to go on the record lying, and he agreed that mine was correct. And so the DOJ said, Your Honor, you can't rule on this. If you rule on this, it will open a Pandora's box. So now, these thousands of people can now flood the courts seeking relief. And the judge did rule, and he ruled in my favor.
Real quick. First of all, people need to know you're representing yourself in all these things. In our last show, you talked about how you originally tried to hire an attorney or used a court appointed, but you basically, the last 4 years of giving yourself an amateur law degree. And my question, I guess, the other question is, are you still in front of Judge Boasberg at the time? Now?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. Everybody's hating on Boasberg right now, and he's actually ruled in my favor quite a bit. So it's tough for me to get on the hate Boasberg train when
Oh,
he let me out of the gulag when it was Judge Howell who ordered me in there. He gave me time served when this came through. So, like, end of the day, he was not unreasonable with my case, other
I've
than
shared
he found
yeah,
stuff
I've
he
shared
should.
that I've shared that with a couple. Yeah, I've shared that with a couple of people, Brian, that which you related to me. That I go, look, when it comes to sentencing, and we've heard other, so I would say, Twitter lawyers talk about how Boasberg wasn't the worst of the sentencing judges in DC. Um, I'll do the hating on him for you because we're doing a Skull and Bones series. We're going to do.
Yeah, you're all over him on that
Um,
one.
I in about 2 weeks we're going to finalize Skull and Bones, and Boasberg will be the very last one we do, and I've got a full hour's worth of content on him.
Oh,
So
I bet you do.
he makes it
Yeah,
easy.
yeah. Um, no, it was an interesting thing. It's my case really is odd and has all these weird little tentacles that shoot off. So I actually met a couple lawyers at CPAC who had worked on some Jan 6 cases, and they came in, and when I met them, they're like, "Oh, I know you." It's like I've studied your case, and it was weird to be like, "Oh, okay." Like, I knew my stuff was high profile, and I knew that everybody kind of looked at each other's stuff, but to know that some pretty powerful lawyers were looking at what I was doing, it was pretty cool. Just being a landscaper from Minnesota to have somebody take interest in legally what I was doing. So I always tell people I'm not a lawyer, but I play one from time to time.
What exactly are you trying to accomplish with these lawsuits? Just lay it out there. What do you want to see happen?
So yesterday we had the press conference at the U.S. Capitol. Had a number of Jan 6ers show up, some other organizations, even Code Pink showed up there. I made friends with Leon Benjamin. He showed up there as well. Ivan Ranklin. We had White House correspondents. We had Washington Post. It was pretty good turnout. So what we were doing is we were announcing this Division of Civil Liberties. But what we did is we announced our class action lawsuit against the BOP and DOJ, and it's coming. It's imminent. I don't have a date exactly when it's coming out. Obviously, for something of this magnitude, it's got to be perfect. And we're working on venue right now. It should be filed in Minnesota. I'm 99% sure it'll come out of there. So we're working with a lawyer there as well, beyond the one that I'm currently working with. So there's a lot of moving parts on that. We've collected a lot of evidence. I released a little bit of that. We should have my transcript coming up on our website shortly. If it isn't already up there, I've got one of my guys working on it. But what we made is a call to action to Donald Trump. We said, look, you've signed this into law. The BOP has become a rogue agency. They're not following this. So we made a call to action for Donald Trump to pardon anybody who is a federal criminal or federal inmate at this point who is FSA eligible and has served at least half their sentence. That gets guys out right now who are serving more time than they should. So that's immediately thousands of inmates that should be released who have done the right thing. And then what we're calling for is an investigation into this BOP and DOJ corruption. Um, we're asking that Congress convene somebody to come in and define exactly how the FSA is supposed to be implemented by the BOP, because they cannot be left to their own devices and interpretations of the FSA. They've proven that. So they need hand holding. Clearly, they're not adult enough to be adults. So that needs to happen. I've made a call for civilian oversight into the BOP. So I'm over top of that and within the BOP. So I want to see at least two civilians inside every prison. I want funding to come separate from the BOP so that there's no conflict there. I think just having them knowing someone's looking over their shoulder changes a lot. I've been in contact with Elon Musk's legal team, and I've spoken with them about wanting an audit done on at least the FSA portion of this, where all that funding's gone for the last going on 7 years now. And then finally, I made a call to Pam Bondi to arrest and indict my prosecutor for fraud, conspiracy, false imprisonment, and any other crime that she can come up with to charge him with. And coincidentally enough, not only was Judge Boasberg my judge and Gordon my prosecutor, but Ray Epps also had Michael Gordon as his prosecutor and Judge Boasberg as his judge. So I'd be very intrigued to see, for as light a sentence as Boasberg imparted upon Ray Epps and what was said at his sentencing, and the fact that Mr. Gordon drafted his plea deal. I would tend to think that Mr. Gordon would know very intimately all the details around his investigation and what his status was with the FBI and any other three-letter organization before, during, and after January 6th. So, an indictment of him could be very fruitful in a lot of different avenues. So, we'll see where that goes. Again, my case has all kinds of little tentacles that shoot off all over the place.
Well, I know where you're going with it. And we can go on my channel. We can go ahead and put on the conspiracy hat because all these conspiracy theories keep coming true.
Yeah, right.
Though
They're conspiracy at this point.
When Dan Bongino took the job as the assistant to the FBI, I've watched, but well, first of all, I just got 5 hours more efficient every week because I watched Bongino every day. He's the one guy on the show I never missed. He's been talking about his show ad nauseum because look, the J6 pipe bombs are really, that's coming out. We've got those text messages. We've got the footage. It's there. So I think that's the piece of string we yank on and the whole ball of yarn comes apart. I think that's the easiest one, but you're coming at it from the Ray Epps direction. Might be a harder nut to crack, but I had another J6
out there.
I had another J6er on my channel, one of these grassroots spotlights, Ty Slaker. And Ty had told it, he was there on January 5th around Ray Epps and had footage. And he had a little bit more of a benign description of the events. He said Ray Epps seemed to him like he was trying to talk everyone down. The mood on the street was everybody wanted to go into that, that night, everybody wanted to go into the Capitol. It's the first time I'd heard the story from that direction. So I'm very interested in to see, what actually comes out of that.
Yeah, I think Ray Epps was just a distraction from the bigger ones. We've seen way worse of that. So, and that maybe is a nice little segue into the investigative part that I've been working on. Because not only with the FSA was I taking that to Congress, and I've gotten to the Oversight Committee and talked with Jim Comer and 5 different lawyers with the oversight along with the FSA. But I've also spoken with a number of different congressmen, including Barry Loudermilk's office, which would be the head of the committee that would oversee the Jan 6 investigation, which he wants a full investigation into January 6th, as does everybody on the committee, who will presumably be on the committee. But it's being held up right now. And obviously Donald Trump wants a full investigation of it. He's tweeted that much out, I don't know, within days of now. So what's holding up right now is Johnson. So Speaker Johnson is holding up a full investigation. He does not want an investigation into the lead up of January 6th. So basically, he's shielding Pelosi as the 3-letter organizations, all of that I were responsible for January 6th. He's also shielding the Jan 6 Select Committee. Sorry, I can't say select without laughing, because I've read their entire report, and it literally is nothing but lies.
It's fiction. Fiction.
Yeah, there's a reason that they are guilty. That they had to be pardoned beforehand, because they're all guilty of crimes. They literally destroyed evidence, doctored evidence, tampered with witnesses. The list goes on and on of the things that the Jan 6 committee did. That is, I mean, our Congress committing crimes to get people like me locked up to destroy their political enemy. It's beyond absurd. There's 120 missing minutes that I keep talking about. That's when I caught my alleged felonies, where police were literally attacking American citizens who were peacefully assembled. And we've got tons of proof of that. We got tons of proof of the setup. We have tons of undercovers and bad actors. We have foreign intelligence in this. We have the tentacles of Jan 6 go so far. When I tell people this is the single biggest conspiracy in U.S. history, it's further than you can ever imagine. One of the things that we have, and I have not talked about this on any station. So what we're doing right now is I got with Adam Villarreal. You'll have to have him on here. Adam's a trip, man. This guy successfully evaded the FBI for 4 years. So they never got him through the entire Biden administration. Day two, his brother turned him in and he fled. Ended up meeting and marrying his wife on the run, like in secret. Tapped into like the MAGA underground to be able to survive through all this. And yeah, they never got him. And so the guy's a former nuke tech Navy guy, and he's been working with AI with me. He showed me what he was doing with transcripts and to show judicial and prosecutorial malfeasance. So he can break down and take a whole court transcript, and which would take, I don't know, days and days and days and days and days to go through this and find all the things that you need to find, be legally trained to do it. He pumps it through AI and boom, it spits out exactly everything that you need to go after prosecutors, judges, FBI agents, anybody who lied on the stand. We find it all. What's very interesting too is as you compile all of these and you start with the earlier transcripts and the earlier police testimony, we can run it through and start finding dates to where the FBI and or DOJ started communicating with officers and where their testimony changes as they've been coached. And we can watch the change from that into how they start charging people and then dropping getting superseding indictment against people, and how if you don't go ahead and fit in with their narrative that they'll actually go ahead and throw new charges onto you. And so they'll escalate these charges and coerce the police into changing their testimony to fit that narrative to go get their superseding indictment and put more pressure upon you to plead out or just get a harsher prison sentence in the process. So it's pretty cool to watch those tools in real time be able to actually break apart that conspiracy. And then what that does is it's able to go to Cash Patel and go, hey, look, here's the time frame when this was happening. The part that we lack, we already have shown exactly how they did the dirty dealings through the courts. We already have all the videos. We poured through this stuff for 4 years. We can show you everything. What we don't have is there's certain people we can't identify in the videos that we need Cash for. And then what we need Cash to do is have the ability to go through and get who was talking to who at all these various times where we've pinpointed, okay, right around this date is when we see some dirty stuff happening. The FBI, the DOJ, were communicating with these officers. This is when it changed. We need communications. Was this done via text, email, phone calls? Who was talking to who? And then you start going back from there. What we also have pretty well proven is that judges were communicating with the Biden administration, getting their marching orders. And we've gone so far as to find evidence, and nobody's heard about this before. So you're breaking some stuff right now.
Cool.
We have evidence that in one of the most high-profile cases, the FBI was targeting one of these gentlemen's, him and his wife's marriage, thinking that they could break up the marriage because they had identified him as the weak link, that they could, if they broke up the marriage and put him into emotional turmoil, that he was susceptible to being tapped to turn on the rest of his co-defendants. And so that process was being put into play. And then they found out that because the FBI had screwed up, they got this because the FBI screwed up in the discovery request and sent all their internal documents or their internal communications. So everything that was being said from FBI agent to FBI agent, that accidentally got sent, and it was for a certain time frame. And so all of their chatter back and all their dirty dealings, destroying like 800 pieces of evidence, and on they got. Well, the judge ordered 13 lawyers to destroy that evidence and never speak of it again. They said on there that they had gotten the order from the judge from their higher up to make this order. So someone was telling the judge, FBI screwed up. make everyone destroy everything. If they ever talk about it, they're going to prison. Well, I might be the one guy in the world that knows where that one copy is. And when that comes in light, we now have federal conspiracy at the highest level. Yeah.
Brian, we saw with the obviously with Pam Bondi now being the new AG, and generally speaking, what happens is she'll replace all the U.S. AGs in the various districts and states around the country. But a lot of we're talking about line prosecutors, career prosecutors, or a lot of the people who handled your case. So are a lot of them still working for the DOJ? And the same question for the FBI.
Yeah, to my knowledge, there was some stuff thrown out in the media about prosecutors getting fired. These were all people that were brought in like within like the last year. So they all had been there less than a year. They'd all been brought in just specifically as like ancillary help um, on these cases. So like they weren't even anybody of note that did get fired. So no, all these people still exist. The FBI, to my knowledge, all still exist. And here's what the big issue is that I see. Um, I don't know where Bondi stands. I was not thrilled to see a career prosecutor get the job that she got.
I was a fan of Matt Gaetz. I was hoping for that one.
Oh God, I was sitting in prison jumping up and down. I was like, yes, yes, get Gates in there. I'm going home for sure. Bondi, I went, well, maybe 60-40 that I'm going home. We'll see what's happening. So I don't trust any prosecutor. That's for damn sure.
The one thing about Bondi is she was always very strong on the 2020 election. So that's there's some hope that she's, and make no mistake, for the audience, the 2020 election and all the shenanigans about that are absolutely, that's J6 was the cover up for what happened there. That's the reason for J6. So if Bonnie's going to go after the election, maybe it unwinds some of the J6 stuff. I think because they are so interrelated.
Oh yeah. No, and that is just it. You're dead on. It was the cover up to that election. If and because we were the idea that we were there to stop anything is utterly absurd. We were there because we wanted the legal process to be carried out, right? So we're there wanting the ability of Congress to decertify, to send these back to the states. And that's 100% why we're there, was to support the congressmen and senators who are brave enough to stand up and vote to decertify.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yep. Why I was there. I wanted them to look out that window and see 1 million people standing strong. I wanted, the walls of Congress to be reverberating with us out there chanting "We the people," so that when they're sitting in there making their decision on how they're going to vote, knowing that we're out there strong and that those on it, and that's really what we were there for. So I find it ironic that those pipe bombs that you talked about were had 1 o'clock time frame on them, and that we just happened to have a breach of the outer perimeter 7 minutes before 1 o'clock, and that we had Paul Gosar bringing his objection from Arizona right at 1 o'clock. It was almost as though everybody knew, and that Pelosi got pulled out of Congress and moved down to the bowels of the Capitol. All these things happening right around 1 o'clock, almost like someone inside had to know that something really important, like the start of the decertification of the election, was happening at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, and I'll take it a step further than that. Then they reconvene after the worst insurrection in American history, and they already have a new set of rules because it's an emergency session. And in these new set of rules that they somehow were able to draft up in a matter of hours, objections could no longer be brought. And I'd even make the argument that because the certification wasn't done under regular rules of order, that's you can make an argument that certification was never valid. But
that was the real insurrection. You watched a coup happen on January 6th.
100%. It was a parliamentary coup with a lot of subterfuge.
Yep, 100%. We know it. We've seen it. When I was in the gulag, I told you this before, they screwed up and gave us access to the entire evidence.com database. When I came out, I released what I could. At that time, Christopher Wray had claimed there were no undercover agents at January 6th. I leaked evidence that showed there were, and he had to go back in front of Congress and admit that there were. That was me leaking that. There was other evidence that I had of Pelosi involvement and a number of others in the lead up in that day that I released. There was a lot of stuff about Capitol Police alleged misconduct that I released, Brady violations, all kinds of things about the cases themselves. So just the myriad of evidence around this. If if anybody actually thinks that it was just some people that showed up and got rowdy and that it was an actual, it was just a riot or it was actually an insurrection, you're just an idiot. I mean, plain and simple. What we have right now, that it's already out there. If you take 5 minutes to go look online, this all points to the conspiracy. What we're doing right now, what my goal has always been with this is I know roughly 2 dozen to 30 people who have investigated Jan 6 at a high level. And that's other Jan 6ers, investigators we know, guys who've been pouring through this stuff day after day after day since January 7th. And we've compiled documentaries, we've got, videos online, conglomerations of stuff, but it's spaced out in all these different places. We're working on pulling all those resources together, and that's the goal with my division of civil liberties is with the Jan 6 investigation was to pull it all into one spot, run these investigations through AI so that we can start taking what we have in the written materials, the transcripts, the pre-sentencing hearings, all this stuff. We put it all together so that you can see the before and the lead up to it and everything that the government was doing to set the stage for this, the execution of it on January 6th and what really happened, and then the subsequent propaganda and and when I say propaganda, that includes the actual criminal trials and what they did to us. Part of that was the torture and the pressure they put upon me and the guys that they held pre-trial, all in an attempt to get us to sign a piece of paper that said Trump did it, blame him, so that we could stop getting tortured and pressured, so that they had something to stand on when they brought Trump into the courtroom and go, well, we've got 120 Jan 6ers who all said that they were guilty of an insurrection and that it was Trump that made them do it. So that was the whole goal in it. So once we've established that, how they put it all together, what the execution of it was, all the bad actors, that's the only thing that we really need. We have it. I don't need Congress to show this. We're proving it. The only thing that we need is really Cash Patel at this point and access to that intelligence apparatus. The problem right now with the FBI and the DOJ, this is as I see it, is that you've got new leadership coming in with a mandate to clean house and pull all of these documents and all this and all this material. Well, you're asking two agencies to now turn over their own demise and start investigating themselves when they're all guilty of it. So the DOJ, top to bottom, damn near, and the FBI, top to bottom, damn near, are all implicit in this, if not direct actors in it, right? So they at least kept their mouths shut, or turned a blind eye, but there were a whole bunch that were directly active in every aspect of January 6th, lead up, execution, and the conspiracy that went on afterwards. So there's a reason that Cash Patel asked for his own security and didn't trust the FBI to do it. So you've got an FBI director that does not trust the FBI to protect him. There's a reason I think you haven't seen as much action out of Pam Bondi right now that everybody's upset about. I'm going to cut her a little slack because until you can trust what's around you, how effective can you be at bringing
Yeah.
cases?
Yeah, I've made that same argument with people that are really upset. Pam Bondi, 2 more weeks. You've seen those jokes all the time. Yes, yes. She'll write a sternly worded letter. But the truth is, she's been in there for 2 3 months, 2 months. And when you've taken over a huge organization like that, you've got to get the right people in the right places. You got to find out, which cabinets, which key goes to which cabinet. there's a lot of house cleaning that has to be done before you can get proactive, and
Yes.
it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. I will cut them both some slack in that respect. At the same time, though, it's going, hey, we've got this. So if you were to, for us, just as an organization right now, we've got the civilians in place right now. With technology the way that it is, we don't need much. A small FBI task force um, could get us, quite frankly, everything we need to push us over the goal line. Like we've gone 90 yards right now, maybe 95. We need someone to help put us in the end zone. And so what we actually need is you give us some clearance so that we can see some of the things that the FBI has. A small task force to be able to for us to go to them and say, we need this and this. We need to identify these things. We need your subpoena power to pull a couple of things here and here. Um, we can do it for them, and at the very least, give them that 95% and say, go get the rest of this, so that we can see the whole playing field now, and we have them. We've done that. So I guess for where we're at and what we're presenting now, when we bring this, it also those are uh, the ability to impeach judges. We've we've found it. So now all these congressmen that are trying to bring these impeachments against judges, which you know, hey, there's a lot of show in that. Are you going to get 2/3? Probably not. But when we present what we can present, they've committed illegal acts. So impeachment might not be the issue. It's how do we bring federal charges against these judges and under what are the laws around that? Because we're getting into conspiracy at a massive level, treason. I mean, we're getting into some deep, deep dark shit right now. So I just want everybody to know I'm not suicidal in any way, shape, or form. I make sure to get that one out there. And yeah, I
Well,
don't have anybody out to get me. So if there's some hinky stuff, just know I was probably everything I said was 100% true. So
yeah, there's well, first of all, there's strength in numbers, and you're not the only person who thinks that we're getting into some deep dark shit. I certainly haven't been shy about my opinion for the last few years, saying it publicly, and I am hardly alone. There's a big constitutional issue. You talk about 2/3 to get impeachment. They talked about that at the Philadelphia Convention, whether it was a true check on judicial power if it takes 2/3 for impeachment. They actually talked about doing it as it's just a simple majority for conviction or removal, and that's something we ought to look at, because right now the judicial tyranny in this country, from many angles, is got to be one of the biggest things we need to address. In fact, on my show, the Federalist Report, we're going to be doing about a 5-week series on judicial tyranny, and I'm going to use some of the examples you cited in that, but we're going to take a look at it from a pure constitutional standpoint, and it should be enlightening.
nice.
How did we get where we did?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get into it here. There's things like the missing 13th Amendment that it's all kinds of fun conspiracies with that one. But
Oh yeah. No, there's no end to it, and I agree with you 100%. The biggest issue right now is in our courts. Like it should be the one, it on its surface, right? The courts should be the spot that's the purest of our government, right? That's where you come for your
yeah,
justice.
it should be non-politicized. The only office, yeah, it should not be political, but it has been.
Oh yeah, and to it, and it's not like it always was political, right? You don't take the politics out of the person. So the idea that it's completely blind. That being said, there's a big difference between what's happened in the last, 50, 60 years to what happened the first couple hundred. right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's incrementalism, but it goes back to the Judiciary Act of 1789, where they gave the federal government a negative on state laws, which is never supposed to be the intent. Constitution never would have been ratified had they thought that was going to be the case. It took Congress 2 years to basically flip the Constitution on its head. You had Chief Justice John Marshall, reign of terror for 35 years. And just incrementally, they keep getting worse. And the issue is that they teach case law. So, well, some other judge ruled this way, so I'm just going to go on his precedent and not have to think for myself. Well, no, you're supposed to go back to the Constitution at all times. So, and the other issue is the DC Circuit never should exist.
right.
I mean, that needs to be defunded tomorrow.
Yep. No, I agree. It's so bad, that entire everything we've seen from January 6th, and that may be the ultimate real bright spot of January 6th, is that it may shine that light on just that, and hopefully they get rid of it, because yeah, the entire thing is so corrupt. And these are the ones that have all the FISA judges, right? That's the other messed up part, is all of these judges are sitting on that FISA board. Oh my God. What is it? Something like 6 of these a year are turned down just across the board. A FISA warrant is just rubber stamp. There's no way they're reading them. There's
Well,
absolutely no, they
yeah,
can't.
And then Boasberg completely lets off scot free a guy who's been convicted of lying to the FISA court. He
Yeah.
altered the documents.
Yep.
Kevin Kleinsmith.
Yep.
So
Um, yeah, it's nuts. And I had some, I think it was Kara Castanova asked me yesterday on TV, was something about something to the effect of, Boasberg's up there right now, advocating for due process of illegals, and very much worried about their due process. And she goes, well, how do you feel about that, having known what was going on with your due process, and in not exactly championing your cause back in 21, 22? And it's going, yeah, I had literally all of my due process rights completely thrown out the window. And he knows that, or was a part of that. And so you're going, wait a minute, this judge cares more about illegal immigrants' rights than American citizens because he doesn't like their politics. All right. Um,
yeah, it's pretty damning.
okay. That's who you want. That's who you want in there making decisions. So um, and the weird thing is I don't, my experience with Judge Boasberg is he seemed reasonable, and someone that at times could put aside his own political bias and look at me in that instance, and not all the bullshit that was coming at him from different ways. So it's a weird dichotomy there with the whole thing, because I know he's pushed political agenda at times, but then you stand back and go, well, it's not like this is happening alone in some vacuum. That's happening across the board. How do we get that out of the courts? I know that the answer to that.
Well, I think it starts with getting the courts out of the DC bubble. I'm sure you guys talked about this. All the J6 prisoners. You knew
Oh
you
yeah.
weren't getting a fair shake with a DC jury. I mean,
No.
I've listened to lawyers give that advice. Say you need to take the best plea deal you can, because you will never ever get an acquittal from a DC jury. Now that doesn't sound like justice to me. If
No.
it's that well known of an absolute fact, then don't even pretend you're having a justice system, because it's not.
No. No. And that's why I took a bench trial over a jury trial. By all means, I wanted a jury trial. I could have won a jury trial. I should have won a jury trial. Outside of DC, I am 1000% convinced that I would have walked on everything. Just defending myself, let alone having at least, I could have had a semi-competent lawyer. I haven't met one yet, but actually take it back. My last one was good. The one for sentencing, Shelley Peterson, was fantastic. I wish I would have had her all the way through. But other than her, the ones that might have been competent definitely were not for me. The ones that were incompetent were very prevalent. So
Yeah, we've dropped a couple names offline, and I know who you're referring to. It's interesting to see if anything's ever going to come of that. It's up to you
yeah,
if you want to drop the name. I'm not going to do it for you, but there's one in particular.
yeah, they also. We'll see what comes of those. I don't need to go after them yet. Someday I'll have my book deal, and then we'll do the whole tell all. It should be interesting. It's funny when I see a bunch of Jan 6 books dropping. I'm like, yeah, I said this isn't over yet. Everybody's eager to get theirs done, and I'm like, we're just it's just getting interesting now. Like, it's crazy because of all I've been through. It's like, snatched up, gone through the gulag, defended myself, went to trial, got through that, got pardoned, and I'm going, dude, we're not even close to like the good part of the story. So, um, it's the next couple of, quite frankly, weeks and months are going to be really cool. We start jumping down into real investigation, and if they don't, I'm me and a number of other people, some high profile people, we're going to move forward with our own investigation, and we can have hearings, and we do have congressmen that we will go have hearings with. Now they're unofficial, but we get to put this all out there for the American people to see. And then they should be demanding that Bondi pick this up and start moving forward. So
I'll tell,
we'll get the or nothing.
yeah, and I'll tell you what, I'll make this offer for you on the air live. Is my company's got the talent to do this. We've got the people. We'll do the documentary for you. Both, when your book's done, we'll do that documentary. But we can also
I'll,
do it if you want to get your story out where you are right now. And anytime you want, we will go offline, and I'll tell you exactly how that works, and we can get that done pretty quickly.
all
So
right, we will talk.
you've got a great story to tell, and I think it needs to be told. All right, we're coming
It's
up. We're coming
fiction.
up on we're coming up on an hour, and I wanted to keep it at 60 minutes today. So, anything else you want to tell us about, or finish up with? Once again,
Yeah,
tell everyone where they can find you and how they can help you.
sure. No, I want to say there have been a number of people who reached out through X, that were fans of yours and found me through you. So I do appreciate that, and just the continued support. I mean, this is I let people know just because we got pardoned, doesn't mean that we're free. There's guys out there that are struggling hardcore. They can't get a job, they can't get housing. Their lives are in complete disarray. They've been completely wiped out by this. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm fortunate enough to just, or stupid enough that I just don't stop. So I'm sitting in a little better situation. I'm a little more fortunate, but we're still, donations are how we stay alive and are keeping this fight going. So I appreciate everybody that stepped up and done that. Again, my Give Send Go is still going for anybody who's donated there. It helps out. So the Give Send Go, help Brian Mock. And then you can go to our new website, civlib.org. That's CIVLIB.org. There's a donate button there. You can learn about us, reach out to us. There's potential if you have a skill set, you want to help donate time towards something. We're in the process of kind of building out how we can get remote help. Part of it was just getting this place up and functioning, and then we went, okay, where can we plug people in to the various different things that we're doing. So we definitely will take any of that, put you into the database, and then reach out and go, hey, here's where you can help donate some time to it. And if you're in the area of Richmond at all, we definitely we'll take any physical help as well. We have a ton to do. So reach out, talk to us, and we'll talk to you.
Brian, I'll put your links in the show notes when I get this thing posted later today. I appreciate you coming on. We will definitely do this again. Like I said, we stay in touch, and I've watched. I'm following everything you're doing, and I appreciate you texting me every time you have something new. And we'll make this a semi-regular type thing. Get your story out there, and I'll introduce you to some bigger channels as well, as I promised earlier.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Brady.
All right, Brian. Cheers.
Go on.